The ESPN Daily, brought to you by ESPN. By Tori Barron, June 9th, 2020. Good morning. In the words of Maya Moore, it's contagious when one person decides to see someone else different than them or speak up for someone who doesn't have a voice. I think you see a lot of momentum behind people becoming more socially conscious and doing things about it. Cheers to continuing the momentum. Here's your ESPN Daily. Really, because that didn't sound like the introduction to a fucking sports newsletter. That sounds like the introduction to politics. You know, something political. Not, oh really, this? Where do the NFL's peaceful protests go from here? On Friday, NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell apologized for not listening to players' concerns about police brutality and systemic racism, and for denying their right to protest these issues. Unmentioned during Goodell's apology was Colin Kaepernick, the former San Francisco 49ers quarterback, whose protests during the national anthem in 2016 brought attention to issues of racial injustice, but also created a backlash from those who believed he was disrespecting the flag and the military. Kaepernick has remained unsigned since the 2016 season, leading many to believe that he has been effectively exiled from the league. Flash forward to 2020. Protests around the world echo Kaepernick's message, and many NFL players want their voices heard. Could we see players kneel during the anthem this season? If they do, will they be met with a different reaction than Kaepernick was 4 years ago? On today's episode of the ESPN Daily Podcast, ESPN's Dominique Foxworth reflects on the new balance of power among players, always talking about the balance of power. Owners and executives. Also, the Undefeated's Jerry Bembry discusses George Floyd's time as a high school two-sport athlete in Houston and his athletic impact on the community. Of course. Things to care about, really? Caddy Confidential. The PGA Tour is set to return to action this weekend after the coronavirus pandemic forced caddies, like golfers, to be home for 13 weeks. That's good. So we decided it was the perfect time to put Michael Collins and Caddy Confidential back on the tee to find out what caddies have been doing with their time off. Hint, it involves golfing and hoofing their own bags to stay in shape. Are they apprehensive about their return? Yes, but perhaps not for the reason you would think. As one caddy explained it, clearly I don't want to get sick, but I'm nervous about contracting the virus and being told, hey, you're out again for another 2 or 3 weeks. I mean, I've had, like all of us, 3 months of zero income, and I don't want to extend that another few weeks. Understandable. How about the thing caddies are most looking forward to about getting back out there? The camaraderie. You don't realize how close the friendships you make are when you're out on the road with these guys. You take that kind of thing for granted, but I've had 3 months of no social interaction with my friends other than over the telephone, so I'm looking forward to seeing the boys, seeing my guy, and competing. The human aspect of golf, you don't really pay attention to it until it's ripped away from you. My closest friends in life are all other caddies or players or someone involved with the tour, and you don't realize that until you can't see anybody for 3 months. Bronny James versus high school LeBron. Are we really doing this? Taking Bronny James, who already suffers from the burden of an unprecedented amount of hype, and making direct comparisons to his superstar father? Yes, but before you roll your eyes too hard, the deck isn't stacked against Bronny quite like you might think. Paul Biancardi, ESPN's director of college basketball scouting, evaluated LeBron James as a high schooler and has had several opportunities to scout his son. With Bronny debuting at number 24 in our ESPN 25 rankings of the top sophomore basketball prospects released on Tuesday, Biancardi compared what he sees with the younger James to the skills his father demonstrated at the same stage of development. See, I told you this exercise wasn't unfounded. According to Biancardi, a main difference at this same stage is in their approaches. LeBron, who was the star of his high school team, would look to take over games with an aggressive style both within his age group and while facing older players. Bronny, who was surrounded by older, top-level talent this season, deferred more, which was smart. This will naturally change as he gets older. When Bronny plays his age group, he is more aggressive, scores with variety, and you can feel his presence as one of the best players on the court. Biancardi said. He also pointed out that when it comes to shooting the ball from the outside, Bronny's jumper is ahead of where his dad's was. Neither shot could be described as pure, but Bronny has slightly better range and accuracy than LeBron did at this stage. So what should the heir to the throne be working on to elevate his game even further? Shooting, ball handling, especially under pressure, and finishing. Biancardi's overall consensus, based on his current performances against his peers with the same up and down moments all young players experience, Bronny is in a terrific spot. If only the scouting report between my freshman and sophomore seasons could have been so kind. The power of Patrick Mahomes. Here we go again. Last week, more than a dozen black NFL stars released a powerful video in which they asked the league to admit that it erred in its response to peaceful NFL player protests of police brutality and systemic oppression. Systemic. They just love that word. Condemn racism and affirm that Black Lives Matter. Oh my God. The NFL, of all places, not only obviously knows that Black Lives matter. To them, Black lives are extremely valuable. In an equally remarkable response only a day later, Commissioner Roger Goodell checked the items on the players' to-do list, even saying, Black Lives Matter. The stunning shift in the league's public stance on the protest. You know, these people don't really understand that the actual organization of Black Lives Matter is not really just about saying that Black Lives Matter. They are for they want to destroy the nuclear family. They want to I forget all of it, but just look at their website. Their actual website. Look and see. They are not just about Black lives. As a matter of fact, what they believe, especially about what I said about dismantling the Western tradition of the nuclear family or something like that, that is obviously not good for Black lives. That is demonstrably, statistically, not good for Black lives. And yet all these naive people are jumping on that bandwagon because they don't understand. They haven't actually looked into it. They just hear Black Lives Matter and they're like, oh yeah, I agree with that. The stunning shift in the league's public stance on the protests occurred because some of its black stars, and especially black quarterbacks, drew a line in the sand. As several league officials told the Undefeated, the important so you can't control your players is what you're saying. You can't control your employees. These uppity, arrogant employees are trying to control you, and you're letting them. As several league officials told the Undefeated, the importance of Mahomes' involvement in the video can't be overstated. He is not only the game's top black star, he is also the face of the NFL. And that's so insulting to have to qualify it with his color. I don't understand how people are not insulted by this. Nobody calls Tom Brady the league's top white star. As a matter of fact, it's more racist to qualify Patrick Mahomes by being the top black star because that excludes him from being the top star. Everybody says Tom Brady is the best player in the NFL. Not everybody, but that's like the general consensus is that Tom Brady is the best player in the NFL. I'm not sure that if you actually tried to compare Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady, some people might actually decide that Patrick Mahomes is better. But he's just the top black star. He's not the top star. It's not necessary. It's not necessary to do that to people. And it is doing something to them when you insist, when you persistently have to qualify all of their accomplishments with their color. That's fucked up. It's stupid. He is also the face of the NFL. At only 24 years old, the youngest player to have a Super Bowl championship, League MVP award, and Super Bowl MVP award, used his status to take a stand despite the risks. Oh, what risks? There are absolutely no risks right now. Not the way society is going. The risk is not saying anything, or heaven forbid, saying anything opposite, or even in the slightest bit of opposition. That's where the risk is. You people. And when I say you people, by the way, I am talking about all the people that participate in this narrative, whatever color they may be. This is just... That's not where the risk is. That's the stupidest thing. Kid runs on the court to hug Milo. I don't know basketball. I don't know that name. This video might be old, but it still tugs on my heartstrings. Never forget that time a young fan ran on the court in New Orleans, Louisiana, to hug Carmelo Anthony. Okay, Melo. When the Knicks were playing the Pelicans. While others seemed shook, Anthony acknowledged the kid before he ran back off into the stands. Yep, Melo's a real one for this. Okie dokie. Overheard. His philosophy was one of self-actualization. Don't accept that you are this stereotype image that is cast upon you by others. Find what is worthwhile about yourself and express it. Bruce Lee's wife, Linda Lee Cadwell, on her late husband's mindset. So if you're Asian, then it's super cool to not conform to whatever stereotype people are putting you in. But if you're black, you just have to be black. That's all you are. Remember when? On this date, 21 years ago, Bobby Valentine provided one of the most memorable moments in the colorful 57-year history of the New York Mets. After getting ejected in the 12th inning of an eventual 14-inning win, the beleaguered manager returned to the dugout rocking a disguise of sunglasses and a fake mustache made of eye black. I see. Random fun fact. Valentine's alter ego wasn't the only person of note in the clubhouse that night. Pitcher Pat Mahomes' nearly 4-year-old son Patrick, who grew up to play a little football with the Kansas City Chiefs, was also present. You really can't make this stuff up. Cute. Until next time, remember. Yesterday, as I listened to Tupac Shakur's 1998 song Changes during my workout, I was embarrassed that it was the first time the meaning behind his words really hit me. I got love for my brother, but we can never go nowhere unless we share with each other. We gotta start making changes. Learn to see me as a brother instead of two distant strangers. Tupac's call for a paradigm shift in how we view one another is as pertinent today as it was then. This has been your ESPN Daily for Tuesday, June 9th, 2020. That's almost as bad as when Martin Luther King Jr.'s son, I think it was his son, tweeted a quote of his that took it out of context and presumably was trying to justify the riots that were happening, when obviously Martin Luther King Jr. would not have been for this. Honestly, I don't know Tupac, but I seriously doubt that he would be okay with this. At least not at the time that he was living. And this whole thing is not bringing people together. It is not causing unity. It's destroying people. It's dividing and destroying people. It's disgusting. It's disgusting how everybody that anybody listens to is just falling in line with this lie. And this is supposed to be sports. This is supposed to all be sports. I don't care if sports is veering into politics. When you talk about sports, it should still be about sports. You're just bored because there's not much sports